cute intro.
Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence daily.
Hello, and welcome to Cecilia's Big Reviews. So today I'm going to be reviewing The History of Wolves by Emily Fridlund. This is my first book review or review on this channel, so please give me your thoughts. Let's get started. I felt the line that really sets up the tone of the story is before Paul, I'd known just one person who'd gone from living to dead. And I felt like, so straight away we know that it's going to be about death, and it's going to be quite sombre. So the story is told through flashbacks in the first person narrative of Linda, who, as we discover, is a 14-year-old girl. And then the other overriding theme is actually set up by the front cover, by this question, which is how far would you go to belong? Which sets it up as a coming of age tale, and this feeling of belonging. And it also it's kind of like a miniature explanation of why Linda does what she does and why she reacts the way she does, because it's all about her wanting to feel like she belongs and doing things which, as an adult, she kind of regrets doing, but at the time it seemed okay, not okay, but she kind of just went along with things because she wanted to feel like she belonged. So the first few chapters, for the first few chapters, the title of the story, which is The History of Wolves, it doesn't really seem to have much relevance to the story's plot. And to be honest, in my opinion, it didn't seem to have much relevance overall, as I'm not entirely sure what the History of Wolves is supposed to represent. The only possible explanation I could think of for it is that the title is symbolic of Linda searching for acceptance or a pack, as she does not fit in at school. And then this ultimately leads her to befriending her neighbour Madeline and becoming a babysitter for her 4-year-old son Paul. That's Madeline's son, not Linda's. I felt that the overall use of first person gave the story a nice intimacy to it between the reader and Linda. I also found that at times the voice of the main character was a little inconsistent, as at times it sounded more like an adult trying to find direction, and at other times the voice sounded more like someone older, or like an elderly person who has seen the world and what it offers. So to begin with, I wasn't quite sure if she's telling the story as a teenager or she's telling the story as an adult or an older person. But in both cases, she does sound like someone just trying to work things out. Eventually, it is revealed that Linda is telling the story as a 37-year-old. However, due to the chaotic nature of the book, it's possible that Linda's telling the story from different points in her life. It could be that at times we're hearing from her when she is a teenager, and other times we're hearing she's speaking to us as a 20-year-old, and then other times she's speaking to us as a 37-year-old. It could be any of those things. I found there's quite a lot of time jumps and back and forth, and I found this a bit discombobulating, as it did have me reading in anticipation of what happens, but then again I did find it quite disjointed. But also I felt like it gave it a sense of realism, since when we think of we think of memories, they don't often come back to us in chronological order, and they can often be a bit disjointed. So, in terms of reading it, it was quite hard, but in terms of realism, it was accurate. In terms of realism, it was accurate. So, yeah, I found the second half of Fridlund's use of flashbacks were a little too clever. I felt there was too many flashbacks and flash forwards, and it just got to the point where I didn't have a clue what was happening. However, I did feel that in the first half, which is entitled Science, it was a lot easier to follow because there was a main focus, which was the relationship between Linda and Madeline and Paul. From the outset, from the first time she meets Madeline, Fridlund has Linda make it very clear that not everything was as it seems. After Linda's first meeting with her neighbour, the reader's told at the trial they kept asking, when did you know there was something wrong? So at first, that line it's really shocking, and it's really grips me. But then she does keep bringing it up throughout the first half, and which means that by the time we get to the reason for the trial, it's kind of lost all impact. So I found it a little bit anticlimactic, which was disappointing because the second half it didn't seem to have a central focus like the first half did, which caused it to be a bit more disjointed, and ultimately I felt this lack of focus for the second half meant the plot had no tension, and indeed I know this is going to sound really awful, but I didn't really feel like there was a plot for the second half. I found the overall structure quite repetitive because she does talk about events and then talk about them again. One of the main themes of the story was dominant male characters. So we have Linda's teacher, we have Madeline's husband. They're both quite similar in that they were both in positions of power and ended up dating, and in Madeline's case, her husband marries her. And I felt that there was something a bit lacking in their representation because they're presented as, could be seen as like an abuse of power, but then neither character is given much development other than a general outline of what happens. So it's difficult to evaluate their importance or if they abused their positions by forming relationships with students or whether they were themselves seduced. I know that sounds terrible, but it does happen. So it was kind of hard to really feel, I don't know where I was meant to feel sympathetic to Madeline or her husband, because it was hard to kind of grasp the dynamics of that relationship. With the teacher, we're told he did lose his job over dating the student, so that was a little easier to, so we know that, that's meant to be seen as wrong, but then, is she trying to say that actually that was, there's no difference between their relationship and their relationship? Yeah, I didn't really get the point because I felt like it needed to be drawn out a bit more. In comparison to the male characters, I felt the female characters have virtually no importance on the reader. The line "Leo kept urging me to worry less" kept reading me all of these books. It kind of shows that that's Madeline's line, and it shows that she's kind of in awe of her husband's intellectual prowess, which undermines her own brilliance as an English teacher. Similarly, Mr. Gleason's relationship with one of Linda's school peers, Patra, overshadows the intelligence of the students. Overshadows the intelligent student. The sad, dreary tone of the novel makes Linda a depressing character who spends most of the novel either complaining or self-pitying. The setting was one of the strongest points of the story because it was the only thing that was constant. I think this was also very smart on Fridlund's part because I definitely feel like that was a conscious decision. Because firstly there's the line when she's talking about the setting or like the place where Linda lives. You have Linda saying, the one thing I'd always understand. And then also the fact that when she comes back later as an adult and she looks at the lake and it's like the unchanging nature of the lake, and she sees that it's exactly the same as when she left. So overall, I felt the first half of the story first half of History of Wolves was quite a thrilling read, and I was like turning head, and it was a real page turner, and I was like yearning to know what happened. However, by the second half, I felt the main shock of the story had been revealed. The plot is then carried through court scenes, which were quite interesting, but I felt like they were lost through the constant flash forwards and flashbacks, which meant that overall, that for me there was just overall I just felt there was a lack of plot, and I found the reading a little unsatisfying. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about the story. If you have read it, then I let me know what you thought, because this is just my take, my opinion. I did have to read it quite quickly because I had a deadline. So if there's something I've missed, you think I'm being too harsh, or you think I'm being too lenient, then let me know.